And then we go to CM Punk and MJF in the dog collar match. And CM Punk's music plays, but it is cut off and MJF's plays. And this crowd, you would think like they have just announced the match is canceled. Like, they're going to make us wait 60 more seconds till CM Punk comes out. And MJF is booed out of the building. And the lights go out. And all of a sudden, dude, people were speculating about this.
Really?
And, I saw some. Like, people, I don't know if they were seriously expecting it, but at least throwing it out after, the Punk promo this week and so many of the callbacks to Ring of Honor. But they're playing at the what is this? The Edition Financial Arena. They play AFI. And Benno probably had a heart attack. He had to be resuscitated. And out comes Punk in the same gear when he wrestled Raven in their dog collar match in 2003. Like, total straight edge attire. Only now he's 42, 43.
Bit of an awkward look, I have to say. Like with the slick back hair and the ball shorts. I mean, I wonder if he dyed his hair blonde. Like, I wonder if he considered that for tonight. But God, holy shit! Like, this was an awesome entrance. Okay, like, if anybody who remembers those days and how significant this AFI Miseria Cantare song was for CM Punk, I like goosebumps. I'm sure for plenty of people.
And introduced as the Second City Saint.
that's gotta suck for the other one. Don't you think?
Well, we weren't going that nostalgic with Punk. He was not joined by any seconds here. But he comes out. This to me was just it was such a cool moment that it was like, what would our audience just like? What's just a cool thing for our audience? And they lost their minds for this. And it wasn't like
how much of the audience though? I mean, even if you don't get it though, like, you're going to get it now.
I think like there is something to that even if you didn't follow Ring of Honor, it's like it makes you kind of want to be now in on it and figure it out. And
it's
for those
great promotion
that
for that tape library, eh?
Well, that was the thing. There was plenty of Ring of Honor mentions throughout this show, and Jim Ross flat out stating like it's Tony Khan's bought the company, and there's a strategic reason to be reintroducing this kind of stuff to your audience if you have the long-term plan of marketing all of this stuff to them.
So now is there no, like, now we have that expectation that Tony Khan's going to buy the music rights for all of those songs, at least the significant ones, right?
It's a great question. Like, how do you put that Ring of Honor library onto your hypothetical, streaming deal and not have like the final countdown?
Yeah.
And we know the fact that Europe wanted some obscene price when they inquired about that. So, I mean, that's part of like what you're navigating, and it's not just like random commercial music that they decided to use. Like, it was very symbolic of the performer. Like, they were very much tied to the music. So it was very much like ECW's relationship to music. So that is something that they have to navigate. And I'm sure that is something that, Tony Khan, the tape library was so significant that you have to be aware of that hurdle and how you're going to get around that. So they are chained up together, and Punk is just yanking at him immediately. He's using the corner. He's using the chain as like a fulcrum to tie MJF up. And MJF is just apologizing, offering his hand. So Punk stomps the hand, which would play a role later in the match. MJF would take over and starts whipping the back, and Punk gets busted open. And in 5 minutes, this guy is leaking like a faucet. This guy might need a transfusion by the end of this week.
Dude, like, I mean, obviously it must have been like a similar cut that was just like probably barely patched up from Wednesday.
We had the cut on his forehead, so it was target practice here for MJF to just land on the spot, I guess.
It was just as much blood as it was on Wednesday, but prolonged. This man did not get medical attention for well beyond.
This was a 26-minute match, and he was gushing at 5. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
Then we had MJF with his Scott Steiner tribute moment as he went over and yelled, "Give me the fucking mic." And he calls Punk a old timer and tells him to tell the fans you don't love them and quit, just like you quit on me. So Punk yells, "Eat shit, Max." And that led to an "eat shit" chant from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a shirt.
An eat shit, Max shirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
He calls the fan schmucks and gets yanked off the turnbuckle. Punk is just completely covered here. And he goes for the GTS. MJF digs into the cut. He applies the sleeper using the chain just as he did in Chicago, but Punk keeps the arm up. He goes for a pile driver, but it can't be done by MJF because of his injured hand. He can't lift him. Another GTS gets blocked. This time, MJF applies the salt of the earth, and Punk is screaming and rolls up MJF, gets to the Anaconda Vice, and MJF pulls at the hair, and he breaks free. So Punk, again, turning back time, he wraps the chain around the knee, and he brings out the Shining Wizard. Using the chain, sending MJF out of the ring. Now MJF is bleeding as well. He misses a knee going into the steps, so now Punk is selling the knee, and again, he can't lift MJF for the GTS. We see MJF bring out a bag of thumbtacks and hits his own step-up knee to Punk, and the crowd was livid at this blatant use of CM Punk's own knee maneuver. And the Bulldog gets stopped as he bites MJF's hand. They battle around the tacks. They're just teasing and teasing it. Punk goes for the Pepsi plunge. It's stopped. Punk is crotched, and MJF hits a superplex. And I guess they were going for the tacks. I counted 4 that made it into Punk's back. So then after, MJF just knocked him down, and Punk just rolled into the tacks. He was going to get punctured one way or the other.
I think he had bled enough.
This was basically auditioning for the Passion of the Christ by the end. MJF is giving up, or not literally, but he's frustrated, so he calls on Wardlow, who walks down, and he's checking one pocket for the ring and another pocket for the ring, and he just looks up at MJF, and he can't find it. So Punk yanks him back by the chain, hits the GTS, and sends MJF into the tacks. And then Wardlow checks another pocket. There's the ring. And in my favorite Wardlow moment ever, the camera's on him and he just brings out the ring and says, oops, and puts the ring down onto the apron. Beautiful shot up close. And Punk takes the ring, drills MJF, who spits at him, and then gets hit with the dynamite ring. And Punk pins him in 26 minutes and 33 seconds.
What a match. Dude, what can you say, man? Well, first of all, like, just before I forget, the Wardlow bit at the end, I saw you tweet about it. I'm in complete agreement. He has incredible, like, cocky energy that I mean, I'm honestly surprised at, for somebody who is relatively, new. But he's gotten to, they've done such a good job with him. And I think for me, like, what's most important about him is not necessarily like the in-ring, because we haven't been able to see him in like a, so long of a match yet. But for me, what's great about Wardlow now is just the incredible charisma that he exudes, the incredible confidence that he exudes. And I thought that was perfectly exemplified here in these final moments of the match, where he was really called upon to act, and to play that great scene, fucking around with MJF before, ultimately finding the ring, and then carefully, very slowly, and very professionally putting it down onto the ring for CM Punk. All of that was done really well. The match itself, I think they more than lived up to the very violent sort of imagery that they set this dog collar match up to be, so that by the time the next time that they promote a dog collar match in AEW, it's going to feel like it's a big deal that's worthy of a pay-per-view. Great display, I think, of their body part injuries throughout. It felt like a very special night if you're a CM Punk fan, and it felt like a very special night for CM Punk himself, coming out here just from the entrance alone, but then just this match getting to bleed like this. When was the last time in his career he's had an opportunity? It wouldn't have been, like, it would have been ROH that he would have been able to. And, like, I imagine, much like Bryan Danielson, this man was, like, really in his element, being involved in a match like this. And we, of course, finally, would you consider this the actual Wardlow turn at this point?
I think that it has to go that direction now. I mean, I don't know how much more you can really, you can stretch it, but like, that's the focus now. It's like MJF has lost, so I think like this should set up Punk getting the next shot at Hangman.
Which surprised me. But they're also 1-on-1 now, so they can do a rubber match.
You could do the rubber match. You're right. You could do that. That would certainly be like TV, and that could get you, like, you have 3 months until the next pay-per-view. So I would I would have Page and Punk be your match for Vegas, and maybe you get through one more match on TV, though this felt like such a finality at the end of it. But you're right, you could do one more, and it does seem like now is the time to pull the trigger on Wardlow and MJF, which I'd also put at Double or Nothing. I would hold that, like, you have some time.
It just seems to me though, like, I mean, 3 months is a long time to keep a match away. And it just makes me wonder if they'll possibly, if they're going to do Punk versus Page, that they might go to it before that.
I mean, when did this start? Didn't these two have their confrontation, the TV coming out of Full Gear, in November?
Man, my memory is not that great. But they did do the match, like, before this pay-per-view.
Yep.
This is their second match, so maybe we'll see the same for Punk and Page. If that, I mean, they never said that this was a title contenders match. We're only kind of making that up in our heads, right?
But I mean, logically, it should set up Punk for to be the challenger. That's what I would do, personally.
It would be great for TV or pay-per-view.
Yeah, this was tremendous brawl. I thought that it's really enjoyable watching CM Punk, who has just come back, and the man is in love with professional wrestling.
Yeah, completely. It's like, I think, like, having seen him for so long, I think he had like a very similar energy when he went to MMA, except in MMA, he couldn't find success. Like, he really wanted to, like the moments of him, like, walking to that octagon for the first time, walking out to the crowd, like, he was really excited. He wanted
and you had the opposite. You had a fan base that was so adamantly against him versus this audience that is so wanting of CM Punk. And I think that it's, there was, whatever you want to say about Punk in MMA, the man absolutely loved that sport and the training aspect. And there are not many people that would put themselves through that amount of, like, you really have to be able to block out a lot of negativity that he was subjected to for years. For years. It was 2014 he signed with UFC, and his last fight was 2018. And man, he was just, like, I think he honestly had a great passion for it. It was just the platform he was on that just brought so much ridicule that he never would have received if he just went straight to, an LFA or something like that.
And of course, the limitations of his age. He was starting really late, and he was really in the deep end with a lot of people, even a Mickey Gall. But in pro wrestling, I mean, he is a master. Like, he is, a Randy Couture, like, in this world. And I think also significant is the fact that you're right. Like, the man looks like he absolutely loves wrestling again. And that's something he himself said was not the case many years ago.